So just to start off, I'm Sean Forbes. I'm the chair of the California National Party. This is our first town hall just to discuss the issues with everyone out there. Obviously, we have a major issue in California. I think that I will be speaking a little nonsensically to say that we don't know what's going on. This is something new. This has been happening over the last 2 weeks. We've been under attack. This is basically a formation of occupation against the state. We've had a lot of people being injured, hurt. We have an uncontrolled federal government, and we want to stand up and fight back. We want to make sure that this nonsense doesn't continue for the next 20 years. We are under an immense amount of pressure from a federal government that has run wild. I mean, we can talk about the past, but the current is really awful. So I will be taking questions a little bit later, starting off with the ones that are actually sent to me by email. But that's who I am. I'm going to toss it over to Ash.
Hey, I'm Ash Seiter. I'm the External Communications Coordinator for the CNP. I also am a fire captain on a fire department in Lone Pine, California, up in the Owens Valley. So I hope to bring not just the messaging for the party and kind of a way forward as far as how we communicate our ideas from the party to the citizens of California, but also really emphasize the public service, the volunteerism, and the nationalism in the California sense that the party really wants to bring to our political scene here in California. So that's one thing that I think has been a huge focus of mine as a public servant, is that one of the biggest problems with our local, state, county, and obviously federal politicians is they've forgotten that they serve us. They serve the public, and I think that any questions that are geared towards that, I'll definitely be able to answer for you guys. But yeah.
And then one last introduction to Aria.
Everyone, my name is Aria Barrale. I am a co-secretary and I'm the chair of the Los Angeles chapter here at CNP, and just here to help provide any backup and answer any questions that may come up, especially with regards to any activities that have come around the LA area and the occupation of Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you so much. So like we said, we're going to start out with the questions that were actually sent to us by email, and then we'll do an open forum. So the first question is, hello. I recently saw that you're having a live talk, well, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we're having a town hall, and interested in attending. My question for you is, what does your ground game look like in terms of canvassing, posters, pamphlets, events, etc.? I'd be interested in attending a live event or get-together, but the events tab on your website is blank. I can be reached at this email address. Thank you, Anonymous. We are first starting off again with setting up the chapters. That's our most important thing. We want to organize people into proper chapters so that we can actually have more and actual protests. That's our biggest thing, because right now we have members all over the nation state of California. I mean, and they're spread out in immense distances, and we need to actually coalesce people. Now, for example, Aria is the chair for LA County, right? Now, LA County, I'm in Long Beach. Lancaster is about 3 hours north. So we're having a tough time actually trying to put people into the correct areas to actually try to have any kind of ground game going. Now, we've had people go out during the No Kings events. I mean, we've had people, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Del Norte, again, Inyo County, for example, San Diego. So we've had these events actually where people are going out to the protests, but again, to actually have an organized system, we need to have it where people can actually be in the proper chapter, get in there and actually work together in a way that they can have online meetings at least once a month and then plan on events from there. And right now, again, the big issue is the size of the state. We're 40 million people, from one end to the other is about 9 hours driving. So again, we're trying to get people signed up, be members of the party, and then actually see where we can actually get them to what corner is actually appropriate.
And on that note, lately we have had, and I know because I've been trying to keep the map current for areas, for chapters that have begun to morph and break off, split up. We have had a lot of interest in more localization on our chapters, and our chapters are growing. So people are stepping up to take that on, and we encourage anyone who wants to start a chapter in their community to reach out and do that. I mean, this is an organic movement, and anybody that's willing to take that on in their local community, get organized, start putting out flyers, come up with a logo for your chapter. I mean, we're all volunteers. That's something that we are very interested in, and we'll support you in if you decide to do that for your community.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's just that whoever wants to step up to the plate and help out. I mean, everyone here on the call who's a part of the leadership committee, again, they just stepped up to the plate and actually tried to do something. So whatever you think you can do, whatever kind of like, thought process when it comes to organizing, please let us know. Again, our doors open. I'll put into the chat my email, chair@californianational.party.
And, it doesn't have to necessarily mean that you need to be in a leadership or you're going to be, the chair of your own chapter. Even if you wanted to volunteer, we are very, very welcoming to any volunteers of, whatever your interests are, your talents are. This is a group effort, and we're not going to be able to move mountains by ourselves. We need to come together and highlight each other's strengths.
Absolutely. And also I would mention too, we've had started up for the last about a few months, the Arts Council for this California National Party. So again, if you have any kind of ideas for trying to put out memes, try to put out any kind of good graphics, whatever, again, we are meeting up regularly. You can send an email to chair@californianational.party if you want to help out with that. And that's a great way to do any kind of expression. It could be written, graphic, whatever you can think of. Music, again, something we talked about as well. So these are all little avenues to kind of go towards. Next question. Hi there. I am blah, blah, blah on your Discord server. I like to listen on Zoom. I don't have a specific question, except how do people from outside California and places that don't have a group like CNP, what is the best way they can support CNP and really work towards a better political structure for the landmass currently known as the United States of America? I'm in South Euclid, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. We do have a chapter right now on paper called Outside California. That's for people who support the idea of California independence. That is, for example, we have people from the Philippines, people working in China, for example, people working in Oregon, Washington. This is basically the chapter you would go to. So if you sign up with us at chair@californianational.party, that's your best way to actually kind of interact. Now, we're trying to form that. We're trying to actually have someone to actually chair those meetings. Obviously, too, there's a big issue with time zones. I mean, we're talking the Philippines, China, Oregon, Washington, Ohio. It's going to be really kind of tricky to find a time and date to actually do an online meeting, but that is something we put together. So there is a way to do that. Okay.
Also, I'd just like to add that on our Discord, we do have the Outside California Discord as well, and that is a great place to share resources for anybody outside that wants to support. Go ahead and join the Discord and get in on that conversation, because there's a lot of great resources being shared on that channel.
And also, sorry, go ahead.
So also just making donations, either one time or recurring, is incredibly helpful for anything across the board.
Yep, absolutely. So again, that's the way you can help out. But again, we are trying to group up people in the Outside California chapter as well. And I assume that everyone here, again, if you don't have the Discord link, we'll put that into the chat if someone can actually do that. But again, it's a permanent invite. You can actually come in at any time and join. Discord is a free app. It's very easy to use. So again, that's another way to keep in communication as well. All right. Let's see. My question is, how do we plan to take advantage of the new interest in the movement from the current crisis? Also, what safeguards does the party have in place to prevent bad actors like Russia from associating with or co-opting our movement? Thanks. I'll toss this to Ash in a second, but I would just say that how do we take advantage of the new interest? Well, I mean, you look at the protests, you look at everything that's going on right now. You see Gavin Newsom is giving us talking points, right? He's talking about we should withhold tax money. We should not be working with ICE. Lawmakers are trying to ban masks from law enforcement at the moment, right? Because again, ICE, the cowards, they always hide behind masks. They don't identify themselves. They don't even look like they're police officers, which is incredibly dangerous considering what has happened in Minnesota. So they are doing these kind of things, but again, we need to press them more because there is a feeling that they're not going to actually carry us over the finish line. This is a lot of rhetoric that we're kind of seeing that's not really coming through. as of yet. And again, like we are having the moment that we can take these talking points that they presented openly, and we should be presenting that we are the ones that actually can do this. We can actually make this happen. That is our biggest thing, because right now we're in a very much a political flux, and there is so much anger, resentment going on against the federal government and Trump. And I just would say that, to quote Hal Lohr, who is again a movement member from a long time back, this is the best moment for Cal Exit. This is really our time to actually come, because again, everyone's sick of it. If you look anecdotally through comments on social media, people want to have California leave. We're done. And again, there's going to be a better environment. Also, too, the Independent California Institute, which is independent of the California National Party, they commissioned a poll through YouGov. YouGov, again, is a responsible pollster. ICI basically paid the money to do the poll. This was back in January. Back in January, they said 61% of Californians were open to the idea of leaving the union. So that was back in January. That was just, again, day one stuff with Trump. So what do you think it is now? What do you think actually the environment is now, considering ICE, the military occupation of Los Angeles, more troops coming in, the lack of constitutional safeguards that are, have been done? We are in that moment. So again, we have plenty of avenues to take advantage of this whole situation. But I'll toss it to Ash when considered the Russian question.
So, yeah, I mean, I understand this concern. If I'll speak to a few points here. Number one, if you've noticed since Trump's election, the Russian bot army is now actively attacking California independence, and that's obviously because they have a friend at the federal level now, and this would actually hurt them. California, if it were to become independent, would be a powerful new ally against fascism, right? Like one of the world's most powerful players in that. So it doesn't benefit them in the way that it would have during Biden's presidency, which is where you saw a lot of that, and previously before that. So I'd say that the sentiment on that side has shifted, although the narrative hasn't caught up with that yet. Obviously, it's still a concern for not just Russia, for other power players, China and other countries as well. Fracturing the U.S., depending on your perspective on that, could benefit other countries that aren't extremely friendly to us. But as a party, I'd say, just on a personal note here, so I flew to Germany at the beginning of the Ukraine Russia conflict, and I was running humanitarian supplies to the border, like from Germany through Poland to the Ukrainian border in support of Ukraine. Since I've been back, I did that for several months. Since I've been back, I do several shipments a year where I collect firefighting gear from different departments, PPE, rescue equipment, specifically tools, SCBAs, protective gear for rescuers over in Ukraine. And I ship it through a nonprofit of Ukrainian volunteers here in the U.S. and overseas in Romania and Ukraine called Road for Life. Anyway, so generally, it's a concern, obviously, for a lot of people that are a little bit on the fence. For people that are solid CNP, it's not as big of a concern because we know where we stand on that. The party stands behind Ukraine. Obviously, nobody's going to stand with a fascist regime in Russia. That's an aggressive, aggressive nation that invaded a sovereign nation as a neighbor. So, but yeah, it is something that we have in our minds, obviously, going forward. And we do get this question from time to time, but I think as time rolls on, it's going to be more and more irrelevant.
I would say so too. And again, the best way to make sure Russia doesn't co-opt the movement is to trust the personalities involved. Again, Ash, this gave you the whole idea of what he did with Ukraine. Again, the idea of any kind of Russian cooperation or co-opting of the movement, that is not going to happen under my watch. I'm going to make sure of that because, again, Russia is the what the USA is turning into on steroids. This is everything we want to get away from. And there's no point in working with Russia at all, because again, we don't share anything. And we believe, kind of like Ukraine, though, thank God, knock on wood, not at this point yet, but we are trying to pull away from that central government that's doing a lot of awful things. So again, we have a lot of sympathy for the Ukrainians. We believe in their cause. And, if you have any kind of like 2 seconds on Google or look up any of these people who have been co-opted by Russia, you'll notice that they can never, ever say any kind of thing pro-Ukrainian. That is always their tell. And again, just like Ash said, and just like I'm saying right now, we're for Ukraine. We hope they win. So again, we're not going to have that happen at any time, anyway. Next question. How is the general public going to be sufficiently upset by the federal government to realize that California independence is the best option and be willing to act on it? That is kind of, we have to divide up that question a little bit with answers. For example, already, like I said, the Independent California Institute, 61% of people supported the idea of California taking out from the union. And that was back in January before anything really happened. So they're running another poll. And again, Independent California Institute, what they do is, of course, they take their money that they've raised, they pay YouGov. So again, it's an outside objective pollster, and they will give us the results. And I would just imagine that if it was 61% in January, like I said, it's going to be huge now. So already people are on board with the idea. Now, the other part of the question, be willing to act on it. That is kind of the $64,000 question, right? What does that exactly mean? How do you act on that? How do you actually make California go independent? Well, the first things first is that you're going to have to install someone or take over a branch of the state government to push this in. So again, you're going to have a governor who is for California independence, or you're going to have a majority in the legislature. Depends on the circumstances, how this could come across, but that would be your first attempt to actually make sure that we could actually have enough support with voters that actually said, yes, we should actually go with this. Ballot petition is a good idea, but also ballot petitions are extremely hard to get across if you don't have the money and resources, which is, again, why we have to organize the party, have people actually donate to the party, because if you want to have a ballot petition, I know there's been one around, but you need millions of dollars and thousands of volunteers, give or take. And if you don't have that, if you don't have that buildup of actually having an organization to actually try to carry that through, it's not going to happen. So again, if we want to get to that actual endpoint of actually having California independence, we do need to have the party built. We do need to have the ability to have the funding, have the people who step up and go, look, I'm going to run for an office. That needs to happen. So that's the only way we can translate the poll results into actual real results, is getting people into office, raising funds, and then actually trying to go for an actual objective. Because unlike any kind of third party in California right now, we have one tangible objective. We're not talking about trying to make government better. We have one clear objective, and that the objective is California being independent. We should be trying to have the freedom to achieve freedom, to kind of quote the Irish Revolution. That's the way we can do that.
Could I add something to that, Sean? Because when we're talking about like CNP in governance, right? Mm-hmm. We need that on every level. We need people to be running for their city council. We need people to run for, their local school district. We need, we really need party members to take that leadership role in their communities, because at the end of the day, with the state of politics in our nation here in California, we expect nothing from our politicians because they deliver nothing, right? So for me, CNP will grow off of what we're able to actually accomplish in our communities on the ground, when we put our money where our mouth is. You know what I mean? When we actually get into office and deliver results, listen to our constituents, to make their priorities our priorities and carry that banner forward. So it's going to take a lot of, to get what we ultimately want. We have to build that foundation in each and every community across California.
Exactly. I mean, that comes back to the idea of building the party, making chapters and localities, having people group together, fund resources, and actually go push for, again, like in an office or again an end goal that actually makes sense. So that's what we have to be doing. Now we're gonna go into the open forum, but I just want to read off. Lucas had left a comment before he had to go. I'll leave my question here just in case. With the 2026 midterm so far away and the Trump administration doing more and more damage to the country seemingly every day, what are things that we can do in the present moment to block or otherwise reduce damage done to Los Angeles or California at large? That's all. Thanks for having me. Again, protests are important, but again, I would say, what is the objective of the protest? No Kings was the biggest protest ever in the country's history. That is a remarkable achievement. That is something that everyone who went out should be really proud that they were a part of a historical moment that really caught on very fast. I just think that, again, if we're going to have something to fight back, we need to have some sort of real tangible goal. Now, what would that be? At the moment, we've been talking about the idea of a general strike in California, really trying to get people signed up. And this, you know what, not even like, No Kings, where you have to go out with, a placard or a banner and like actually march. A general strike means you just stay home. We're not doing this anymore. The whole machine shuts down. You throw a huge monkey wrench into this entire ugly, bloody machine. And that is, I think, something that could be worked on, because if we already had so many thousands of people in California march and actually, go out of their homes, go with the flags, go with the banners, speak their mind, that takes energy, and that takes a lot of will, because again, a lot of the situations too, there were so many people who were facing and had, that 100% happened, that they were attacked by police, they were shot, rubber bullets, tear gas, whatever. That is hard. That is, again, everyone who went out there and faced those, again, either potentials or realities. Again, that this is the bravest of brave people to actually do this, because we actually didn't know what was going to happen here. Let's remember for a second that there's thousands of, National Guard and Marines. Anyone who has a sense of history, Kent State, or again, the Boston Massacre, to go further back, they could have turned out really ugly. Again, I think we honestly lucked through it. I think that a lot of the troops were not really, sold on this whole idea to begin with. So again, we got through that moment. So again, anyone who went out to these events, again, these were very brave people to actually stand up. That being said, I think that if we want to have something where we really put an end to this nonsense, a general strike would be our best option, because a lot of people who might be, not to be disparaging, but more fair weather, or again, we're afraid, legitimately so, about what could happen out in the streets, you just sit home. Turn it off, to stop. So I think, again, that's one of the goals we need to work towards in the meantime, besides actually trying to get someone out to run for office, or again, again, ballot petition, something that needs to happen sooner, whatever else we can do that in the quote unquote, legal sense. That's something I think we should work towards, especially again, if so many people already took to the streets. Because again, I was working a job site, and again, there was a protest in El Segundo, and I had no idea it was even there. And there's, again, hundreds of people out on Imperial Highway, which if you go by the area that's next to LAX, there's not actually a lot of traffic, but they're all there. Seal Beach, for example, which is like one of the reddest towns in Orange County, people were out. Again, there was Republicanville my entire life when I was growing up. People were out. So again, we can build upon that and actually have a moment where, everything stops until we get over this nonsense. So I think that's what you could do.
And I think from just to add to that and saying what we're doing, the CNP has reached out to these organizations, these other organizations doing this. We have made connection to the General Strike group. We have made connections to other more local groups that are doing these types of actions, and will continue to do so. And form networks of mutual support, because at the end of the day, what they're trying to achieve and what we are trying to achieve is essentially the same thing. Even though our vision for the future is slightly different, Because honestly, I believe that the CNP is more realist than a lot of people, and especially when it comes to how fractured the country is and how likely it is to ever truly repair. You know what I mean? So, but the point is for the current situation, we have a lot of allies out there, a lot of people that are like-minded, that we can work with for mutual goals.
Absolutely, because again, I think that even if you weren't totally sold on the idea of California independence, you probably sold on the idea that ICE should be stopped. They should not be around our neighborhoods. Maybe we're spending money in a ridiculous way. Maybe our constitutional arrangement with the United States is actually very poor. I mean, remember, we have 2 senators for 40 million people. I mean, we barely have representation. And again, what was the original, what was the original issue of the American Revolution? Taxation without representation. Well, we definitely have that in the Senate. We only got 2. That's not really good.
And taxes on the middle class are historically high right now, too.
Yeah. And by the way, too, when we talk about the tax situation as well, just remember, too, this is not this affected Democrats here. Democrats in the state screwed up a lot of things, too. And they didn't really properly align what taxes should be. There should be a lot higher taxes on the rich, middle class people, a lot lesser. They never really figured out that formula. So let's not try to, give them a break just because they're against Trump. I mean, that's good, but we should do a lot better. There's a very low bar that we're trying to get over. Just going into the chat, Chris said, according to the Cal Exit site, a group I'm not sure if you're affiliated with, no, we're not, claims that over 200,000 petition signatures have been collected to get on California independence on the 2028 ballot. Is that accurate? And is that petitioning a tactic? It is not accurate. The reason being is that if you actually look on the website, the signature count they're doing is from people saying that, yes, I will actually take the paperwork out, sign it, and ship it back to Sacramento. And there's no independent verification that people are actually doing that. So we're actually going to see the real number come, actually really soon. I think their deadline is July. So again, if that's an accurate number, I'd be actually very surprised, because that literally means you're clicking it, saying you're going to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't really carry through with that, because you got to stamp, mail, send it off. And then actually the Secretary of State of California has to go, yes, that's actually a real signature. So I don't believe that's accurate. It might be accurate in the sense that that's the online clicks, but that's as much as I can say about that. But no, we don't have any affiliation with that. And then is petitioning an actual tactic? Yes, it is. But if you look at CalEx and what they're doing, again, it was started up as an LLC. It does not have the literally millions of dollars you need to have a petition, a ballot proposition. You need kind of millions of dollars and you need thousands of volunteers. That has not materialized. So I don't really know how they were planning to do this in the first place. They just kind of launched it. They took out the papers. They got media for it. If we do have millions of dollars and we do have thousands of volunteers and the party is bigger, yes, absolutely, that's a good tactic. But just taking out papers and saying like, yeah, we're going to do it, guys, is really setting yourself up for failure. It's not really a good idea just to do it so early when you don't have any kind of organization. And CalEx is an LLC, so again, there's no org really there either.
And on top of that, like we have some serious underlying issues in California. We don't have accurate, adequate representation at the state level. Our state assembly is too small. I mean, there's some major issues here. We have all the same issues with our representation that the U.S. has. I mean, we have a broken two-party system that needs to be repaired. We have a lot of income inequality in this state. We have a housing crisis in this state. We have corporations buying up thousands of properties and renting them. I mean, there's a lot to do here. And for me, while I support the petition, I think that they're really not addressing some of the underlying issues. And from my standpoint, the CNP as a political party could start to address these issues before we even talk about secession. We can if we have people in government, if we have party members working with communities on addressing these issues, we can start moving the ball on all these problems well before we're even petitioning to leave the United States. So, I mean, that's another point of this too, is like, yeah, it's great to be reactionary like that. And I mean, I love the energy. I love the energy of Collexit, but I don't see it as addressing the primary issues that are going on in California today. And just saying that we'll just leave with Democrats in charge. Democrats are not doing a good job at representing the people of our nation.
No, and I think this is a very fair point to address, is that California has a lot of problems that we need to actually tackle here, right? And so even before independence, we have to figure out, again, our taxation, universal health care. What is the impact of AI? I mean, like Amazon's number 2 came out and basically said that, the workforce is going to be dwindling for Amazon because of AI. So again, we have, then that's not even mentioning again the fire issues. It's not mentioning again the housing issue. It's not mentioning again this low wages in particular. People are basically, living, paycheck to paycheck, if even that. Most people are actually living off their credit cards, I think, at the moment. A lot of people are defaulting on either student loans or mortgages. So we have all these issues. So we need to be tackling that even before independence. Because also, too, we don't want independence to be seen as like, okay, so we changed the flag and now Newsom is president, not governor. Because, yes, would that be a lot better than the current status quo from Washington, D.C.? Well, absolutely it would be. But that is, again, we're talking about seriously low bars to get over. We need to have something actually to work towards. Also, too, we need to stop pretending that, like, we're just a little, like, gold mining outpost from like the 19th century. We are a place of 40 million people. We have an economy bigger than Germany. We're not organized for it at all. I mean, we only have about, 80 assembly members. Again, we're the same size as Canada. We should have much more representation. We should have, again, a Congress or Parliament the same size as Canada to actually make sure that all our interests are included. And also, we need to break down the two-party system here, which is kind of a joke. It's basically 1 3/4 of a party. We need to have something where outside voices can actually get through the political system like they do in other countries, including Canada. Again, like Democrats run everything right now. It's a kleptocracy. You've seen the homeless money go missing. We don't know where this is going. We see all these kind of sweetheart deals. They can do all this stuff because they're basically a Chicago-style political machine on steroids. And yeah, that's better than the brown shirts. But again, is this the kind of political system you want to be living through, where the choice is, well, he's a crook, but he's not going to hunt down my family, versus the maniac? Like, we should not have that dichotomy. We should have a variety of voices. We should have Greens, CNP, Peace and Freedom, socialists, libertarians able to actually have their viewpoints. And if you actually look at the third parties, most of the time we agree on more than we disagree. So why don't we have a chance to get to the table? Right now, everything is dominated by, again, an amazing amount of money that's donated to the Democrats, who could dominate everything. And, if you want to take your money elsewhere, well, deal with the Klansmen. I don't think that's a really good alternative. Let me just check through the chat here. Catching up. Isn't Cal Exit a Russian op? No comment, but yeah. Let's see, Chris, that's my understanding, but hoping for clarification. CNP seems more organized and realistic. Yes, our address is in Sacramento. It's not a 1-bedroom apartment in Fresno. I throw my support. Thank you, Chris. Maya was saying my interactions with everyone on Discord helped me convince me this wasn't a Russian op. No, we're definitely not, unless Ashton's doing a really growing up in being a firefighter and then working for the Russians while giving aid to Ukraine. That's really quite a trick.
Yeah, I work with hundreds of volunteers from Ukraine to get this firefighting gear where it needs to go. If this were a Russian op, I would not be here.
Worst one ever.
Yeah, this
yeah.
And also, by the way, guys, too, if you actually saw our finances, the Russians are very cheap with us.
Yeah, we're volunteers. It's not like we're making money doing any of this. I put, oh God, it's almost a full-time job. I'd say 30 to 40 hours a week in the CNP. So it's it's a labor of love.
It is. And again, like everyone here who's a volunteer, I mean, everyone in leadership and everyone in like the chapters, again, like, we wish we had some money, but we're not going to take dirty money. So let's put it that way. Heather, I'm organizing a demonstration July 4th. I'm currently calling the West Coast says no or no Independence Day. It's time to line the entirety of the West Coast, northern to southern border in peaceful protest. Yes, actually, I kind of saw some info with that. Heather, if you're able to talk, we'd be interested. I did not know exactly about that until it kind of came across the emails.
Hi, sure. Yeah. I basically just got the idea literally when I was at the Seal Beach protest on Saturday and posted about it, and then it kind of took off. So here I am. Ash asked me to come and talk to you guys about it. So it's in the very baby stages of planning. I'm going to do a Zoom call on Friday afternoon to just try and get some information out to people and get some idea of who maybe wants to help organize so that we can actually make this happen. A lot of people seem interested, so I think that if we really got it out there, I think we could potentially make it happen. So I put my threads post down there if you guys want to just go follow, and I will post the Zoom link shortly before. It's going to be Friday at 5 p.m.
Yeah, Heather, can I ask
Yeah.
just really quickly, can you go over the scope of this proposal? Like what is your vision for what this would be?
So I mean, if we could literally make it like as continuous as possible, like that would be amazing. Just that would be crazy, I think, if just imagine the visual. And it would be great to have some kind of specific message. And one of the thoughts that I had was potentially specifically focusing it on the ICE raids and having it be a no Independence Day.
Okay, but I think we're again like just looking through the chat too. Again, like I think everyone's kind of on board with the idea, so that's very interesting. Yeah, again, when you have a chance, just put the Zoom link in the chat, and then also to yeah, again, like I think I already have your email, of course. So again, like we'll just kind of reach out back with that, but that'd be great. And then also, just kind of curiosity, I grew up in Seal Beach, Heather. I went to La Salle.
Well, I actually grew up in Missouri, so
Okay.
but I live in Long Beach. We just kind of went up PCH and went to 4 different protests. So
Very cool. Yeah, I was actually grew up originally in Chicago until I was 12, and then came out to Seal Beach, and then moved to Long Beach. So just
nice,
so again, Seal Beach is kind of like a second hometown.
nice.
Okay, so let's see. I'm just gonna again went through the chat and everything like that. If you want to post in the chat a question, or if you want to just shout out on Zoom vocally, just let us know. Put this up there.
Yeah, if you got any follow-up questions, anything you want to ask us about the party, really anything at this point. This is the open forum section, so definitely this is your chance to ask questions, give comments, concerns, that type of thing.
Is anyone besides CNP talking about a statewide strike, a general strike?
Yeah, it's called the General Strike. I have to look up their web address. They've been basically having people sign up online, but that's considered like a nationwide thing. That's right throughout the entire United States. We do have a contact with them, but yeah, that's supposed to be for the entire nation. That's been going on for kind of a while. But I think that what CNP should be doing is making sure that we actually have it more specifically tied to California issues as opposed to whatever's happening in the rest of the United States. Because again, like they probably, how we put this, we have much more issues and burdens coming from the federal government than anyone else. So I think that if you want to have a general strike happen, it's more likely this to happen in California than the entire country.
Well, and if it happens here, like California leads the way on many, many, many issues, right? So if we can organize with labor a general strike in the state, or if we can basically help facilitate a general strike, it's going to spread. It's not as California goes, so does the U.S.
I'm wondering if any unions or anything have been approached on this, that we can get them on board, or even some Democratic organizations. You know, the more people you can get, even if it's just, actually, I think if it's especially California that does it in a big way, that'd get people's attention.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think again, reaching out to unions and things like that would be great, especially like the unions that are a little bit outside the normal like Democratic like centers. You know, like ones that are a little bit more slightly radical, or again, just, not so tied into the Democratic machine. Because again, there's a lot of unions in California that are unfortunately just more or less this kind of like Democratic money laundry. But at the same time, too, I think that they're going to be recognizing that they're not going to exist longer under a Trump administration or post-Trump world where the Republicans run everything. So again, I think that it's a good idea to reach out to them. Also, I'd say too that there must be other people besides this general strike talking about it. Again, also trying to work with maybe again
SEIU.
like third parties too.
SEIU, their leader got arrested.
Yeah, exactly. So
100,000 strong, and they're pissed and they're powerful. Get them on our side.
that'd be a great one to actually get. Absolutely.
Yeah, and also Phil, to your point, I mean, there's a lot of outreach that needs to happen. Unfortunately for us as a secessionist party, what happens is when we have a Democratic president, everyone just kind of goes about their lives and just kind of loses steam a little bit, except leadership, obviously. And then we lose our pool of volunteers for those years. And then suddenly a Trump character comes back into the situation. And now we have our volunteers. But in the interim parts, we do tend to lose our volunteers and people that can get stuff done. And that's not, it doesn't help us when we're trying to do all this type of stuff. And I mean, we all understand the phenomena. People become complacent because it's not as terrible. But this time around is very different. And the types of people that we've been bringing into the party bring a lot of excellent skills. They are professionals, and I really see this moment, like Sean was saying earlier, this is the moment where we can start to branch out, start to talk to those trade unions, start to talk to other organizations, start to bring them in to our sphere, and start to get some real momentum here, because I think there's a sense all across California that this isn't going to change, and it's going to get worse. And no matter what happens at the national level for the US, it doesn't matter at this point, because the cracks are showing. We already see the unfairness. It's now mainstream, as Sean was talking about earlier. You have Gavin Newsom up there using CNP talking points and making them mainstream. So it's now elevated the conversation. And this is truly our moment to move forward with this. And I don't see even in a reversal and getting Democrats back in the US, in the presidency, that's not going to repair any of the damage that this administration has done. And I mean, this is just giving us a glimpse of what our future will be if we stay in the United States. So,
and we're on day 149.
Yeah.
A very valid point to make. Again, it hasn't been that long, even though it feels like it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, like this kind of like this is an addendum. I would say too, again, like Democrats are actually giving us, California Democrats, I should be very specific about, are actually giving us talking points. I mean, Newsom talked about the 80 billion withholding it. Again, that blew open a door for us, because he said that he threatened it, of course, but we all know that he ain't gonna do anything with it. But then also too, again, like, the Bay lawmakers, I guess it's like a group from the Bay Area, are the ones pushing for anti-mask when it comes to ICE. So again, like now it's kind of like on their plate. Are you actually going to do something with this or not? And chances are probably not, because it also, again, like if the lawmakers even get the anti-mask thing with ICE through, there's a really strong chance, again, the Supreme Court will probably shoot that down, because whatever versus whatever from 1982. So that being all said, again, like, they are giving us enough ammunition that we can probably recruit after a certain point here to actually get people onto our side, to actually get towards a moment where we can actually have a true exit. And again, I think that their unions too again, unions, unless for again, a few activist ones, but even ones that are activists, they're still tied into the Democratic Party machine. They would only break away once they realize the Democrats have brought up these issues and never followed through, which I think we're going to see soon. So we have to make sure to actually take that moment to go, hey, listen, they brought this up. We didn't, these are not fringe ideas. We're not just, Joe Schmo off the street just saying like, all this kind of crazy stuff. They said this, but they didn't go through with it. So now we're the ones that actually would do this. That is basically our angle of attack. Thank you, Heather. Heather needs to run. Who else has a question who hasn't had a chance to speak yet?
Tara is in the chat saying that she's got a question.
Okay, Tara.
Did I do it this way or?
Yeah, either way you want to do it, that's easy for you.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I'm in the store. But yeah, I've been hearing about CNP for a while. And the thing that kind of made me like careful, I guess, about it, which I imagine affects a lot of people, is the idea of like, well, what happens if we, like, the violence that could happen if we were actually to declare independence. And that's not something you think about until it becomes a real possibility. So what do you all say about, like, what do you say to that when people bring up that concern?
Well, again, I would say
and
that
partly for me, but also partly to talk to other people about it.
of course, and again, like that's a legitimate thing because again, our history, again, when you hear about secession, again, it has been unfortunately shorthanded towards civil war, or in a bad sense, or in a good sense, the American Revolution, right? It's always that secession will equal violence in some form. But these were events that happened in the 18th century to 19th century. And the Confederates, again, probably would have gotten away with it if they weren't the ones that opened fire first. So that's the biggest thing. We're not slave owners. We don't have a conspiracy to take Washington, D.C. We don't have this ugly, attempt to try to hold history in a certain direction towards white supremacy. So we're not psychotic. So we're not like, first off, again, people here are pretty normal. So again, we're not going to be going towards that direction. The other thing too is that for the most part in the 20th century, most countries have actually dissolved and had secessions without violence. It's actually pretty much the norm. Singapore was actually kicked out from Malaysia. No violence. They just were kicked out because, well, that's a whole story, but they were kicked out. Singapore left. Singapore is a very functional, developed country, has some authoritarian issues, but again, you can't say like it just rotted and with the hell. Same thing with the Soviet Union. Soviet Union had the KGB, biggest military on the planet, nuclear weapons. They had multiple republics that split off. Again, not really violent, not a bloody civil war. And that's like from an authoritarian state, which had censorship, which had, everything we're fighting against, again, goon squads with masks coming in the middle of the night to snatch up people. They couldn't even do that. So they were nonviolent. They split away. Estonia, the Baltics, again, better off for it. Some other ones, not so much, but again, that's kind of their own issue. But long story short, their secession crisis ended in not really death. Czechoslovakia, the Velvet Divorce, that's what it's called. Split in two, nothing happened. Again, they're actually more happy than ever. They consider themselves neighbors, not really an issue. So again, that's really kind of the trajectory of most of recent history when it comes to a secession crisis in a country. So again, if we're not
even Scotland is kind of leaning that way, and
yeah,
expect there to be violence in that case.
Exactly. Scotland's actually a good example because Scotland did not vote for leaving the UK, but it was guaranteed in all sides if they had voted. It's not like, what's his face, the old David, whatever, the old prime minister of the UK. He wasn't going to send in ground troops to storm into like Edinburgh and take them out. So these are all good examples of what we can do. And it's just, we have, again, unfortunately, some, rabid MAGA types to deal with. But again, if the Soviets could get through their secession crisis when they had, secret police, KGB, troops on the ground, tons of weaponry, it wasn't a bloody crisis, I think we could probably do it too. We could probably deal with a few whack jobs.
There's another point to be made here, and that was actually a really great question, because I know that is central in a lot of people's minds, and rightfully so. You know, nobody wants to see violence. But what I'll say too is that we're not the only state that is considering this. I mean, you have this movement in Oregon and Washington and Hawaii on the East Coast. I mean, you've got this idea all over the place. Texas is a prime example, even though obviously that one's a little scary. What that would turn into, who knows? But this is not. It's not just California that's looking at this idea of a national divorce. So, having said that, the states that are most likely to move in that direction also happen to be the economic powers, California being predominant in that group. With almost, I mean, if you add up all the tax revenue plus all the other types of fees and federal funding that comes from California, I mean, we're talking about almost $1 trillion annually that the U.S. would not have. So if they weren't receiving that tax, they would not be as big and scary, as they seem right now as well, militarily, especially because they wouldn't be able to financially support those operations without states like California.
Yeah. And again, like also too, I mean, it doesn't, and just because it's a little bit outside of like, we already have a big job organizing, CNP in California. But there is the thought process, and I think this is 100% true, that the moment we actually took off, I'm pretty sure Oregon and Washington are going to join up in some kind of fashion, whatever that we work out as a confederation, North American Union, whatever. But again, that would definitely happen. We definitely not just on our own. We would have some kind of new polity to actually work with that would be actually responsive, actually good governance, none of the kind of, nightmare scenario we've been kind of running the cycle since, well, probably the Reagan era, but that depends on your kind of your viewpoints. But yeah, we have an ability to actually kind of go forward with something better.
And one other point is mutual defense as well. If you're talking about military intervention, which is something that only really right wingers in the U.S. really talk about. They're always talking about, well, we'll just invade you. And the reality is that that's super unrealistic. Also considering that Canada would recognize us, Mexico would recognize us, most of the EU would recognize us. So we would have instant allies all over the world. And so that in itself, I think, is also, it's just a bunch of talk from a very extreme portion of the U.S. population.
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be the wackos, just like, again, like in some of these other crises around the world. I'm sure there was ones who wanted to go in guns blazing, but again, didn't turn out because most people are pretty decent. And even if they didn't like us, they'd probably be like, well, God bless, you just take off. We can do our own thing now. So that's another way to kind of put it. Let's see, we're coming to about 7 o'clock. Who else has any kind of questions? If you want to put in the chat, please go.
And while we're waiting on that, I wanted to say that this is a pilot for Town Hall. We're intending to do these. Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to be doing them once or twice a month.
Yep. Correct.
Okay. So yeah. So this is the beginning. It's the foundation of an ongoing dialogue between party leadership and our new members and old members, all our members, so that we can discuss issues and basically share the direction the party's going and basically anything that's going on, just to keep in close contact with you guys. Another note on the side of that, I will also eventually be doing something on Discord. I was planning on maybe attending, and Sean might be there occasionally as well, on Discord, and just kind of being in the voice chat for a couple hours each week for anybody that has questions as well. But it's, for me, a lot of the focus is on community and bringing that communication to everyone and making sure that everybody's being heard and that we are responding to the needs of all of our party members. And that only happens when we have open dialogue between us. So, we need to do this as much as possible. And the hope is that the chapters, once they get organized, will also have this internal dialogue, and then their chapter leads will bring this to leadership as well. So just building solid inter-party communication.
Yeah, that's again, Ash summed up extremely well. And again, like that's what we're going to be working towards is just really trying to structure the party so it makes sense. Again, like chapters are close to each other, or party members are close to each other. Do they have actually a chapter, working together on projects, etc. Talking through Discord, talking online. Again, having these town hall meetings. So again, you want to join again next time? Got any questions? Let's keep hashing it out because again, we all don't really know each other all that well. I mean, like, yeah, we've probably seen each other online. We may have met in person, some of us, we don't know each other very well. So again, let's try to break that ice. Let's keep communicating either online or through this method so that we actually know, like, hey, listen, we're all on the same page here, more or less. I know we have probably disagreements about this policy or that, but I know that everyone here supports the idea of California going because, again, it is the freedom to achieve freedom in the end. Even if, again, we don't agree on everything, we at least have the chance to go, hey, listen, we're all honest, good faith actors. We have something we want to work towards. This is what we're going to do. And again, we can have our disagreements outside this political system right now, which is corrupted. This is all nonsense. We already know that. This is a bad system. There's bad people involved. They're taking money from God knows what sources to do God knows what purposes. And I just know here that if we had a better system, we wouldn't have a lot of these bad faith people. They would just come in with ideas just like you and me going, hey, this is what I think. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, we'll work on it. I'm just going to read the chat really quick too, because Ari had a good point. There's a video going viral right now that a woman got her German citizenship. She identified herself as American and they corrected her to say, you're Californian. You're one of the good ones. So we will likely already have some built-in allies. I think that's extremely interesting. I have not watched the video. Aria, so they basically changed her, what was it, her country to California?
Yeah,
Or
her
was
origin
birthday?
country is California, not
Yeah.
America.
That is
She
amazing.
actually shows her new passport and shows California as the origin country.
I have to say that is absolutely amazing, guys, because if you know, the German civil service is not really a, bunch of people having fun. They're very serious people. So if they actually said that this is a California person, something's in the works. And that's great to hear.
I have something to add to this. I lived in Germany for about a year, but I also toured in Germany every year when I was working in the music industry. And one of the times I remember we were renting some Sprinter vans, and I remember my California driver's license was accepted as okay for renting that van, but one of our other drivers had a driver's license from another state. I forget if it was Kentucky or Tennessee. It was not accepted. They had to have an international driver's license. So I didn't think about that at all. And I'm not even sure, because that was quite a few years ago. I'm not even sure if that's still a thing, but I do remember my California driver's license being acceptable and one from the middle of the US not being acceptable to a German rental company. Now, it wasn't, obviously, there were commercial vehicles, but still, like, it makes me wonder if this is kind of already, it was a kind of even a thing back then that they accept that we're a modern society here, and that's not true for all of the other countries where they trusted our driving laws, but not Kentucky or Tennessee.
I mean, it's well, again, this is the whole goal we're working towards, where it's like, these are not just little anecdotes. This is the reality we're trying to get. So that's cool. Unless anyone has any other kind of questions, I'll wrap up in about 5 minutes. Not trying to rush anyone out the room. I'm more than happy to stay here longer, but yeah, again, if you have anything else, we'll kind of, otherwise, I'm sure we're all busy. It's a Wednesday night. We have other stuff, dinners and things to go
That's
to.
International Sushi Day. I would just like to point that. Very important holiday to me.
Yeah, my wife appreciated it very much. The reminder, it's a very good excuse.
Yes.
There's no sushi where I live. I have to drive an hour to get
Oh.
sushi.
Oh, you're breaking my heart, Ash.
That's tough with living, man. We have a sushi place walking distance, so it's like, yeah, sounds good.
Very privileged.
Actually, this kind of reminds me too. So again, like my wife is Japanese, and actually, there is a strong feeling, even in Japan, with the cultural differences and language barriers, that Californians are different. They recognize the flag immediately. They know the kind of California lifestyle. There's like, TV shows and like, YouTube or anything like that, talking mostly about California. So again, like, even again, if not that anyone in I think this room left, it actually has a belief in keeping the union. But that being said, California is a nation state, I would think, by any standard of the imagination, or just like simply nation. I mean, it is a distinct entity. Even if it's under another central government, it is distinct.
Well, too, Sean, when you were saying that, I was thinking about the fact that if you follow the recent events, where did this whole thing start when people started actually fighting back? San Diego, right? And then obviously it happened in Minneapolis, but then immediately it was Los Angeles. So even though they're not really the news here, the mainstream media in the United States is not showing this. In foreign countries, it is. They are seeing this, and California will be seen by history and already is seen by the world as the leader of this resistance. So we have to factor that in too, that idea that Sean was just talking about, that we are different, is going to be magnified by recent events. And on the global stage, they are going to see us as the resistance, and they have, and they will continue to do so. And just to speak to what you were saying as well, it's kind of always been that way. Every time I've been touring in another country, it's always been, oh, you're from California, not, oh, you're a American. You know what I mean? It's never, as soon as if you say you're an American, they're kind of not interested in talking to you. But if you say you're Californian, they're like, oh, so.
Yeah, I specifically identify myself as a Californian when I'm in another country.
Yeah,
as you should. I mean, we are Californians, and we are different, and we have a different culture. It's unique in the greater community of the United States, and it's not compatible with a lot of these other states. They do not share our values.
No, they don't. I mean, we have to remember that these are, for lack of a better term, these are beggar states with basket economies that take our money to spread oppression and bigotry and a lot of ugly things. And they're being, again, subsidized by us. Every one of us here who's California resident, who's paying taxes, you're paying for nonsense. So it's kind of time to kind of cut that. And I guess on that note, maybe we should cut the meeting. What someone said.
I just wanted to say one other thing, is that unlike the rest of the U.S., California likes their immigrants, and I believe, most Californians feel that the immigrants bring are part of what makes our state great.
Yes.
We wouldn't be great without them. And that's a difference that we need to emphasize, that we simply do not agree with the rest of the U.S. on the matters of immigration. And that's like non-negotiable. We have to make that a point. And
I think you're right, because again, like me growing up, again, my friends were, again, like dad was Indian, mom was white, my wife's Japanese, her best friend is Cambodian, her other best friend is Vietnamese. It's just like, again, we have a kind of United Nations here in a very good way. And again, like the rest of the country that lives in these hinterlands, they kind of feel fear because it's been stoked by rich people who want to steer them away from class war. It's just, again, like we have embraced that. We've always known that. I knew that California was different the first moment I came over here. I was 12 from Chicago, where again, like, racial lines are a little bit more intensive. And here it's just like, wow, everyone's getting along. And this was, again, not like, really a prime period. It was like 2 years after the riots, but it still felt different.
I can remember even when I was a little kid in Los Angeles growing up in the 60s, and I mentioned to my dad, I go, how come it said Bienvenidos on the side of the bus? The old RTD buses, those old brown and gold things. And he said, you got more, he said, there's more Spanish speakers in this city than any other city outside of Mexico.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hadn't really thought of that before.
You
had Armenian neighborhoods, and and even later when I joined the military, I always loved coming back to LA to the airport, because you just see everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And you come back from the South and all you see is whites and poor blacks. I remember the last trip to the South, I saw one Asian in 10 days. I couldn't believe it.
Well, it's just, again, just, one little like last anecdote, I visited a friend outside Austin, Texas, right? and it felt like a different country, and it didn't feel good. It did not. And again, it's just like everything just seemed like a little bit, I don't know, there's something which is a nasty environment of atmosphere or whatever you want to call it. Again, like, and again, it's just when you kind of go outside California, you realize how special it is. And again, my wife again came over in 2000, age 18, didn't speak English whatsoever, and she already knew it was a special place. And she, you know, we talk about vacations all the time. She just wants to go to different parts of California. I mean, and I'm the same way too. We love road trips. And again, like there's always something different to see in California. It's amazing. So we need to protect this place, not let these pig idiots come in and disrupt our community. We have to defend the California community to our utmost. And this party is all about defending the California community. So
You know, just to speak on that too, to speak to Phil's point, is that, you know, foundationally, I mean, not only do we know that California was part of Mexico and New Spain and all these other countries at one time, but I mean, all you have to do is go and look at the signs. What are the names of the cities? It's like, come on, it is so ingrained in our culture, and that's why we're different than the rest of the country, especially our close connection with Mexico and Latin America, and Asia, especially. We had a lot of Chinese, you know, a lot of Japanese, a lot of Korean, a lot of from all over, basically, a lot of Vietnamese. So we are a mixing pot. I mean, everyone always thinks Manhattan, right, or at least Greater New York, when they think of the mixing pot, like Harlem and Brooklyn and all those places. But the reality is, it's LA and it's San Francisco, and we celebrate that. Just like people in New York do, we celebrate it, but it's what makes us different. It's that melting pot that America promises but does not deliver on these days. We deliver on it here in California. We are the actual place. That's why, you know, that Golden Gate means a lot more than just, you know what I mean, just what it is as a bridge and as a landmark. It actually has some pretty significant meaning to me. So yeah, those are the differences we celebrate, and that's what makes us stronger than others.
And yeah, again, just thank you everyone who's emphasizing that, because again, that's the main point too. Again, we have a beautiful community here that needs to be really, again, like this, stand on its own, be protected, etc. Tara, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking, oh, yes. I was just, I majored in sociology and stuff. And one of the things that I started to realize, having grown up on the West Coast, is how different the West Coast is from the East Coast culturally. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I think could be pointed out or like sort of played up somehow, because I mean, you know, technically California isn't the whole West Coast, but it kind of can be seen that way. It's a whole culture, and we just haven't been a part of the United States for as long, you know? And in some ways, if you look around, especially here, it's kind of ridiculous that everyone isn't bilingual. Like, like we should be, like, you know, so just something.
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, it's just, we already, yeah, I mean, we have a amazingly different culture here. And again, like, that's just, you know, it's just something that we have where, you know, the history here, everything that's come through, you know, from the pre-Columbian era to now, you know, with the tribes and everything like that. I mean, we have something here where, again, we kind of, you know, we come together and we actually do like living with each other. We actually most of us don't like to try to hunt down our neighbors or try to call the cops on them or anything like that. We're not trying to make people's lives miserable. And even like, you know, some of these MAGA types, you know, I've heard this, you know, multiple times over the years from certain MAGA people that, you know, I associate with in some regard, but I'm not friends with and probably no longer really associate anyway. But, you know, they always go like, oh, California's such crap. It's taxes and, you know, the illegals and everything like that. Are you going to move? No. I'm born and bred in California. Yeah, I'm going to say it's like, okay, sure. You know, there's always a U-Haul to Nevada anytime you need it.
You know, sorry, you had me laughing at that. Because yeah, nobody's ever actually willing to leave, and this is a sticky state. People don't really leave, and the people that do move out and, you know, the don't California my Texas. Those people, they don't realize that who they're hating, they're not from California, they're from Ohio. Or you
Yeah.
know what I mean? They're from other states that have moved here and then moved away. But what I was gonna say is because it came up in the chat, I just saw it pop up for a second. But yeah, for anybody, Phil, Tara, for anybody that, like, obviously we see a lot of participation in the Discord, but if you actually want to contribute, so we're working on a few things. We're working on a quarterly newsletter, like an actual, like, full on, like, kind of almost magazine style newsletter. And we are also like to put different ideas, and we want to have like a blog post on the website. We have a new website that we're working on that'll be a little bit more user friendly. And if you want to contribute anything, especially with your knowledge and your expertise, if it's something that, you know, if you work in sociology or you worked in this, or you want to express some ideas, I think it's great if you want to write that down and contribute to either the newsletter or the blog. I mean, we would love that. We would love to expand out and give the opinions of party members and promote those, you know what I mean? So if you ever feel the desire to contribute in that way, please do. Please write something out and an article, or however you want to format it, and we'll figure out if we can, you know, where we can put it out.
Yeah, like we've had that before, and also like Lucas, who was here earlier in the meeting, he's put together blog posts too. So like what we're revamping the website, so once that's actually done, we're going to be uploading all that stuff, so we have a steady stream of information for people. Also, I would just really quickly recommend too that look up Independent California Institute. They have tons of articles. These are people, again, they're a nonprofit organization. They're not directly connected with us, but they're supporters of the entire idea of what CNP is doing. They're fantastic for any kind of information you ever want to have on, again, California leaving the union. So Independent California Institute, you can just look that up, come up in 2 seconds. They're the one that did the big poll, like I mentioned before, in January. But any kind of other help with, like, you know, donating your time and writing and stuff like that, we'll definitely put it on. And then even ICI, you know, we could probably toss their way too.